Hi and welcome back to MDriven. Today I'm going to talk about how to set up your development environment for doing CSS refinements and Typescript development on a turnkey site. So the fastest way to do this is to go to capable objects and to the download, the build servers, and grab a copy of MDriven Turnkey. That downloads as a zip file, which you can install in Internet Information Server if you have it installed. But if you have Visual Studio, you also have IIS Express, and that will do fine. So we're gonna use that. So just gonna open this one, which contains some stuff for the automatic install into IIS, but under the application all the complete website is stored. Gonna extract that to somewhere where I remember it. ctemp turnkey test video. While we wait for that, we can start a copy of Visual Studio. And what I can do here is simply to open this as a website. File, open, website. And somewhere on the what do I call it now? Turnkey test video. Like that. And this is the URL that will be used to run it in IIS Express. Okay. And the new things that makes it possible for developing against the turnkey server without database or server or anything like that is actually pretty neat. I can just run the MDriven designer. I'm starting that with click once. And it's starting up. Got it here. And I have the test model, which I, of course, can just execute as a prototype. Like that. And then I have the VPF prototype like that. But what I want to show you now is to run it in Turnkey, in the Turnkey site that we installed. So I'm going to save this model. Let's save it in the website that I downloaded. Turnkey test video. So I'm gonna put the modeler file just along with the website, like that. So this is stored at ctemp turnkey test video. And now when I prototype, I have the option to run it locally. Turnkey prototyper. And here I would want to point out my local IIS version. So that is the URL, and this was wrong, this was from before, so I need to find it again on the local disk. Temp turnkey test video, and then I just start the system. And what actually happens then is that the prototyper writes in a file for the server, for the turnkey server web application, to say that it should use this file instead. We can watch where. It should be here in app data, and it should be the let's turn on, let's see, if I open up this in File Explorer, I can see I have a MDriven server override file, and if I open up that one, this is what actually happened at the prototype with MDriven designer in path, and this is my local modeler file. So that should actually be enough for us to just press F5 here to execute. And what we will see if we watch the output, if it will let me show you. But I didn't have time. It pops up with Internet Explorer. That was the wrong one. I don't know what happened. I closed the wrong one. Like that, and I have the view, and I can create things, and I can view a thing, but I have to save first. View one thing, and I can enter some values and hit add back. So this is a really simple way to have a brand new turnkey environment, totally local and very fast, because whenever if I view one thing and I do some changes to my view model, let's see it ended up here. Let's say that I move this one over here, and I just save that, and that's enough for this one to pick it up. So this is a great environment for us to start to mess with the style sheet, etc. Actually, I do tend to prefer to work in Chrome, so I'm going to start Chrome, and that's the same URL, of course. And yeah. So if you want to mess with the style sheet, we can do so, preferably from Visual Studio. And actually I installed a tool called let's see. Yeah, I found it. It was called the web compiler. So let's see if we can find it again. Web compiler, Visual Studio Marketplace. So if you just Google that and install this, what it does is allows you to work with less instead of CSS. So less is great for, well, if you know these things, it's obvious. But if you're not that experienced, you will find that CSS is very cumbersome because you're not allowed to define constants for colors, etc. And less you do that. So it's much better to use that. So what I can do is in my content add a less style sheet. I'm gonna call this and this is a specific name, and you can read about it in the wiki.mdriven.net, and it's TK user CSS, and then the file extension should be CSS, but since we're doing it as a less file, it's less. And what happens whenever I save this less file, like background equals purple, and when I save, there's actually a CSS file generated for me. So this was the one that I did. Oh, and there was not anyone generated for me because I need to right click this and say web compiler, compile file. And now whenever I save, it will be a new CSS file. You see the date 11:31 p.m. So I'm up at night. I changed this to green, and now it says 11:32 p.m. And since I've changed the body background, it should be visible when I refresh this site. So you can see it's really compact now, my development environment. I can change the CSS right here. I can work with less, and I can change the gist of the model, and I can see the result. The fashion in the less, and the gist from the model to run in the browser. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a few things what I messed with before. I'm gonna open up a less file that I created before while trying this out, and I put it in the other one, this one. Let's see, there it is. And if I just copy all of this to this one instead, what we can see here is that I can define variables and work with colors, and I can use functions to fade. I can have a specific color, in this case in the variable grid base shade, and then I can say how much opacity it should be in that color. So it's very much easier to be consistent throughout your style sheet using less. So I really recommend it instead of dabbling with CSS. And you saw what happened, and that this thing got reloaded as fast as I saved this one. So here I've worked with getting a different kind of menu, well, if it's good or not, it's not really up to me. It's up to in the eye of the beholder, so they say. But what I've also done is added a semi-transparent background to the grid and changed the row highlighting and things like that. So if I select one, it looks a bit different. And of course this one also had a background which I didn't copy from the old place. Let's do that. Folder. So I tried a few backgrounds out, and of course it's really hard to know when you're finished with a style sheet. You have to try things out. But if I were to use, let's see, view medium icons, if I were to use this as a background, I could get one kind of effect, and it's not really obvious that this is semi-transparent, but maybe if I change it to this one instead. So renaming that to X. Okay. Putting that into play instead. F5. Yeah, it was cached. So now you see that the things in the background actually show through from the grid. So I don't know. You can work with this. Okay, so I will be back further on, and we will be doing some Typescript development based on this strategy to work totally local and have a real tight loop to test. Okay, thank you.